ADBN, Advocate Broadcasting Network.
Thank you for staying with us and welcome to Market Movers, your trusted source for business insights and economic analysis. And I'm your host, Osai Ilome. And on the edition today, we delve into a critical topic, the economic outlook, housing deficit and its impact on micro, small and medium enterprises, otherwise known as MSMEs. Now this is because in Nigeria, the housing deficit remains a pressing issue affecting millions of citizens. And according to recent data from the National Bureau of Statistics, the country faces an estimated housing deficit of over 17 million units. Now, this shortage not only impacts individuals seeking shelter, but also has far-reaching consequences for our vibrant MSME sector, which is considered as the engine room for economic growth. Now, why does housing matter for businesses? Well, consider this. Adequate housing is essential for a productive workforce. When employees struggle with housing insecurity, their overall well-being suffers, affecting productivity and job satisfaction. Moreover, MSMEs often face challenges in accessing affordable commercial spaces, hindering their growth potentials. Now, in this edition, or through this edition, we will explore how housing shortages intersect with entrepreneurship, job creation, and economic growth. And to help us understand the policy framework of the government, we will turn to our economic and business analyst, Dr. Godfrey Ajayi Sunday, to discuss policy implications, innovative solutions, and opportunities for collaboration. Whether you are a business owner, an investor, or simply curious about the economic landscape, this Market Movers episode promises valuable insights, because on the show today, we want to have a practical essence of what is possible within the confines of private-public partnership in resolving the housing deficit crisis in Nigeria. And we will receive ESV Osilama, the Managing Director of ESV Global Ventures, a real estate development company working in that space, to understand how quick solutions are coming. And of course, we'll also be receiving our own Madema Ogwo on the zonal business and economy update to provide insight on the Renewed Hope Housing and Cities project, whether it will provide the solution for the MSMEs or not. Don't go anywhere. You are live on Market Movers, and I'll be back after this short break. Welcome back to Market Movers on this beautiful day. Now, the housing deficit in Nigeria is over 17 million units. Many of these persons that can't afford housing are within the MSME bracket, and that is where our interest lies on the show today, because of course, as you will know, this is a business and economy show. We bring you insights on the individuals and institutions that are moving the market. And what we are hearing and what we are seeing is that the MSMEs are struggling to have access to affordable homes. And here we have Madema Ogwo to tell us what the government, the Tinubu administration, is doing to provide some form of solution to this matter. Madema, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osai. Speaking from the Zonal Business and Product Report, the background overview states, on February 8, 2023, President Tinubu officially launched the nationwide Renewed Hope Cities and Estate programs. The program seeks to bridge the housing gap and make home ownership accessible to average Nigerians. The groundbreaking took place at the Kasana district in the Federal Capital Territory where a 20,000 housing unit Renewed Hope Cities project is being developed under a public-private partnership arrangement with with a consortium of companies. Its potential and economic impact so far, the Renewed Hope Housing Estate aims to provide decent, affordable and quality homes for Nigerians by addressing the housing shortage. It contributes to economic stability and social well-being. On the issue of the creation of job creations, the construction and maintenance of housing units generate employment opportunities benefiting local communities and the broader economy. The project includes infrastructure such as roads, water supply, and electricity, which enhances the overall living conditions and attracts further investments. You see, I really like the way that we are literally switching from, the product analysis now to the welfare of the citizens.
Yeah.
This is really a very huge factor that we as analysts should really bring in. Talking about the current status of the economy.
Yeah.
A lot of people are really hungry.
Exactly. That has become like a sing-song now in the country.
Do you understand?
In fact, it should be the new national anthem instead of the
instead of the new national anthem
that has become new.
The old, improvised new national anthem.
Yes.
Now. So I am particular about talking the welfare of people, how people wake up to hearing different new taxes, new revenue outputs that are linking towards, of course, the deduction of those or the extraction of those taxes from with the individuals. Yet we don't even have a good quality welfare status.
Yeah, I think it's a bit challenging, for a government that is so much into the collection of taxes, trying to expand the tax net, to even bring in the micro, small and medium enterprises, making sure that every tax loopholes is being plugged. Now, why we commend them in doing that? Because of course the government needs funding to operate, to run. But the challenge here is when you pay so much tax and you don't see the corresponding service, or provision of basic infrastructures from the government side by way of utilizing those taxes, it becomes a problem.
It becomes a huge problem.
Yeah, and one of that, infrastructure that we're talking about is housing. For instance, we all know that micro, small and medium enterprises are very significant. They are very important in economic growth and development strategies and execution of policies. But here we are saying that there is a huge deficit in our housing sector, whereby over 17 million, of course that is from the NBS, National Bureau of Statistics. If we do an independent analysis of the housing deficit in Nigeria, perhaps it could be more. But let's go with the figure of NBS, over 17 million units housing deficit. How will this, MSME bracket, find succor in the midst of all these challenges?
Of course, this is why I would always say that it is not just to take taxes, provide, job creations for the people. I think there is a way that the government can manage this situation by, through the means of providing just job creations for the people. They also provide a means or a source of shelter for them. There's a way you can actually build structures for the people that are working for you, because both ways you are going to make revenues. You use the skill of those human beings that work for you to make your gain, and then you also give them, shelter, just so that they could have energy to keep working for you.
Exactly.
So I think this is the mentality that we lack, and that is why we're getting laid back on providing these basic necessities for the citizens.
Wonderful.
And this is what I would say to the government. It's not just about saying these things. The Renewed Hope has come to make, this statement to say, yeah, we're going to provide this. However, Are there people supervising these things to make sure or ensure that it is working?
Yeah, I think that is something that needs to be given attention to, because we have seen over time. Because again, when you look at the Nigerian state, the Nigerian economy, year in, year out, we have budgetary provisions in trillions. Okay, so but when you look at the economic outlook, the national aesthetics, all right,
Yeah.
you look at our infrastructures, does it give a sense of a country where these trillions of naira has actually been spent on? Okay, so you look at our road network, for instance. Does it look like a road network where there has been budgetary provisions for the past 10 years? For instance, you look at, okay, the housing sector that we're talking about today. Does it look like a sector that have been budgetary provisions for the last 10 years?
That's right. Here, if I would say, from my own reviews and researches, I feel like the bulk of the assignment is being thrown to just only one sector. I would commend the government because they are doing well on the road infrastructures and provision of facilities and all of that. They are doing pretty good in Abuja, precisely. So
we're talking about Abuja,
exactly.
But
I don't even know about other states here.
Great, because if you move just some kilometers outside of Abuja, then you will understand.
Then it's otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, well, from my own analysis, I would say from what I'm seeing or what I'm observing, the government is pretty putting just one energy on the road infrastructure amendment. But I am saying literally that it needs to be spread just to get that stability, just to get that equality on,
so
what they have actually said they are going to provide for the people.
Great. So what is this current renewed hope cities and projects looking at in terms of numbers?
Good. I'm going to go straight up there before I get onto the part of the CEOs or the people who actually own some real estate properties. Yes. Looking forward to as the current status, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development plans to construct 50,000 housing units in the first phase using various funding sources, including budgetary allocations, the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, and PPP arrangements. On the Kasana project, the pilot project in Kasana comprises 3,112 housing units, serving as a model for future developments. On the online portal, the federal government has launched an online portal to streamline home sales, making it easier for citizens to access information and purchase homes. There, the challenges include funding, despite multiple sources, sustaining the program's momentum. It requires consistent financial support, as they say. Ensuring adequate infrastructure, which is roads, utilities, and other facilities in new housing estates, remains a huge challenge. While the program aims for affordability, ensuring that homes remain within reach for low and middle income families, this seems to be really crucial.
Yeah.
And on the conclusion, the Renewed Hope Housing Estate represents a significant step towards addressing Nigeria's housing crisis by combining public and private efforts. It offers hope for improved living conditions, economic growth, and social development. However, sustained commitment, transparent governance, and community engagement are essential for its long-term success. Before I'm going to leave, I'm also going to talk to the private sector here, because I think they are following the economy statute or the economy leverage, price increase, and all of that. So I'm going to say this to the private sectors. I think they should try to make things minimal, because I could relate to some people complaining that the economy is hard, yet landlords try to make
increment in house rent
increased.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we know that these things they've come to stay. That's why it's a long-term project, well planned.
Yeah.
So this is me saying that the private sector should try to make it a little bit minimal.
So you are speaking to the landlords now. Let us be very clear.
Exactly, to the landlords and the private sectors who own real estate.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? Just so that people, as as low as
but
the
again,
marketers can purchase or afford plots.
Again, how do you now reconcile the issue of the economy being strangulated? All right. It's not for any particular group of people.
I know, right?
Everyone in the country is feeling the pinch. The real estate developers are also feeling the pinch. And don't forget, that is their source of income. That is their business. So they need to also manage the business in a way that it is profitable for them. Otherwise, they will be out of business.
Well, I'm going to say that it should quite be considerable.
But I think the beautiful thing with what you have just presented us with is the fact that the government, based on your report, intends to construct about 50,000 units.
The government says this, and they should ensure that they do this thing that they have promised.
So that is something to cheer about. That's that they are doing 50,000. But if you look at also what they are starting off with, the Kasana project that you just highlighted now, about 3,126 units.
112.
112 units.
Yes.
Now, how does that pale in terms of the 50,000 they have projected to construct versus the 17 million? So for me, I'm looking out to see a moonshot idea that the government is going to be putting forward, and I will be asking.
Realistic.
Yes, beyond being realistic, that is even motivating, inspiring. All right, and these are the questions that I will be putting forward to Dr. Godfrey and ESV Usilama, who is a real estate developer, and of course Dr. Godfrey, who is a business and economy analyst. What is a moonshot idea to solving this huge housing deficit in Nigeria? I don't think it's too difficult to do. We have seen it in other parts of the country, where they can introduce a massive initiative, a massive project, and see to the end. But again, I want to thank you, Madema, for the report that you have presented us with, and we'll be coming back to you with Dr. Godfrey Ajayi Sunday and ESV Usilama to look at the innovations that are possible, the public-private partnerships that are possible, and maybe a new framework that may be recommended by our experts. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this short break. Thank you for staying with us on Market Movers. Today, we are delving into a critical issue that affects the micro, small, and medium enterprises, and of course, the majority of Nigerians, because when you say that we are having a huge housing deficit of over 17 million units, it means that majority of our people are suffering lack of adequate housing and home ownership. And so we'll be looking at how that is going to be affecting business owners. And we have in the studio Dr. Godfrey Ajayi Sunday joining us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osailume. Yeah, I'm happy to be part of this session to discuss housing.
Yes, sir.
And how the MSMEs are able to benefit from the housing scheme in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. And I don't know, ESB Usilama, the managing director of Usilama is also joining us virtually. Usilama, can you hear me? Okay, so we're having a little bit technical glitches. We'll come back to Usilama. But let me come to Dr. Godfrey, who is already here with us. It's obvious. We can see from the project launch of the Tinubu administration, the renewed hope cities and projects of the 50,000 housing units. How does this situate when we say we have 17 million housing deficit based on the government numbers, and we are launching 50,000 housing units, even starting off the construction with 3,112 housing units? What do you see? How does this affect small business owners?
Okay, so that is the right step in the right direction. The 17 million that you quoted, even though Fashola, when he was minister, he tried to controvert those figures to say he didn't know how those figures came about. He tried to reach out to World Bank and those sources that he didn't know the source of that 17 million. But be as it may, your ability to be able to get a house to rent as a small business, is important, critical to what you do. There is the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of law, and you see that housing is one of those critical factors. Ability for you to get where to lay your head, to be able to think very well, is important for the MSME. But again, from majority of the scheme that are done, you will see that it doesn't take into cognizance the MSMEs. Okay, because again, in Abuja, for example, if you are looking at trying to get a house and they are telling you 100 million, so how will an MSME fit in that kind of equation? So, and you see that, I mean, for every highbrow, there is always a Morocco, there is always a Maitama extension that fits those equations. And again, you see that they are on a daily basis being targeted for demolition. Okay, so you cannot have a Sokoro, for example, without having a Gusape extension that will feed them. And again, the MSME themselves cannot afford to live in these big figures. These highbrow areas. These big figure houses that we are talking about. So the Renew Hope housing scheme, as they are trying to deploy, they should also remember that the small to medium enterprise people who are the drivers of economy needs to live in all these houses for them to be able to produce effectively, for them to fit into the economy.
So how does, because you just mentioned, for instance, now that some of these properties, some of these houses and housing schemes, most often than not, their prices are a bit off the radar of the
not the bit, they are way
above
the radar. Okay, so I am an MSME, for example, and the kind of staff that I have, it got to a point, my office is around the Gudu area of Abuja, and it got to a point that, look, there are some categories of staff you want to hire. They must necessarily live in Durumi village. Okay, because initial minimum wage, you are talking about initial minimum wage of 30,000. And if that staff had to live far away, that's, how does that staff commute? So in the UK, there are what they call the council houses, more like the local government houses, which serve as the kind of housing that can take care of that kind of level of population. For example, now they are also even now talking about the fact that, look, rent is going to be by months. So I don't know how that will work for an economy like us in Nigeria, when salary is not, your salary is not even enough for you to feed, and when you have to gather from money from friends and family to be able to pay the annual rent. Okay, it's good in a place like Lagos. They have enacted the law to say, look, you cannot take up to 2 years rents. Okay, 6 months is okay, but going down to 1 month with the unstable economy, I don't think that would work out.
So what do you think that small business owners should begin to think of or could do to be able to navigate these challenges that home ownership? Because of course, from the report we received on the zonal business and economy update, housing affects the productivity, or lack of housing affects the productivity of individuals.
Yeah, definitely. After I had this job, you must have of a necessity be able to go home to lay your head, to be able to rest. Don't forget that people also advocate for the fact that you must have at least 8 hours of 8 hours of good sleep. Okay, so today if you go around the city of Abuja, you will see where human beings are living. Okay, human beings are living in uncompleted building. Okay, a good house in Germany, for example, we have to have internet access. We have to have water. Not just water, the water must be, warm. It must be to the temperature at which you want it. Don't forget that when you wake up in the morning, you want to be able to bath with a bit of warm water. And if the energy source is not there in that kind of house to be able to feed that becomes a problem at the end of the day. So the kind of houses we are talking about, like, it should be tailored towards that kind of council house that I have in the UK. So as a matter of necessity, Mr. Tinubu should focus on the housing unit for serve the low end of the economy. And it's not far-fetched. Somebody says that the cost of constructing a 3 bungalow in Abaji, for example, is the same cost that you take you to construct in Maitama. So that means somebody who has that money would rather prefer to do that in Maitama or Asokoro. But again, our people cannot afford that. So what do? you do a kind of high-rising kind of building where you are able
apartment
to have
building.
Apartment building where you can have so many people living in a particular.
Yeah.
And I'm beginning to see that spring up in places like Abuja right now.
Okay.
So you must become ingenious to the point where you are able to construct those houses to cater for those MSMEs for them to be able to say. Don't forget that if you don't cater for them, it will go on to affect the productivity that you talk
in the
about
country.
At the end of the day.
Wonderful. So I am told that Usilama is ready for us. Usilama, can you hear me, sir?
Good morning. Good afternoon. Sorry. Good afternoon, Mr. Osai. I'm here. I can hear you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, we are looking at the housing sector.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We are looking at the housing sector, and we are looking at what the Tinubu administration is doing in terms of bridging the gap of, based on NBS report, over 17 million housing units in deficit in the country. And we just received a report that the Tinubu administration is executing the Renewed Hope cities and projects, and it has started with the 3,112 housing units of a 50,000 housing units to be constructed. What is your assessment of this project? Can you hear me? Okay. I think we are still having some technical difficulties with ESV Usilama. We'll get him back the moment the network permits us. But let me come back to Dr. Godfrey. Now, what do you think? Do you think that this policy is sufficient, in tackling? Yeah, like you pointed out earlier on, we commend the government for at least taking this initiative.
Yeah.
All right. But I was thinking there could be more.
Yeah, there could be more, and it's not going to be just only in cities like Abuja. It has to go around. We run a three-tier government structure where you have the federal, the state, and the local governments. And don't forget, the local government are actually the drivers of the rural economy. Okay, so and again, you see people try to do this urban migration, all in the fact that they found out that there are more facilities in the urban center. So again, when we're in FCT, when you look at FCT, for example, with a 6-area council, today I always question people to say, look, if the transportation system is okay, I would rather prefer to live in a larger house in Abaji than I have a train system that brings me every morning to the city center to come and do my business and go back. And if you go to economies like Germany, that's weekend, people go back to the rural areas where you can easily farm. Okay, you can easily
acclimatize with nature.
Yeah, nature and be able to do better things. So as they are doing this, I expect that this 3,000 units ought to start from a place like Gwagwalada, a place like Abaji. Then again, they just unveil the railway system. They should drive that railway system from the airport to as far as Gwagwalada, as far as Abaji. I tell you that not a lot of people want to live in the city again if they are sure that they want to get the right thing. So for me, right initiative, but again, they should look at how they can work with the area council and did other local governments to be able to get them to to live in those places and be able to work in the cities. Then of course the transportation has to be good for that to happen.
Yeah, and I think trying to look at the positive sides of what the government is doing. You just talked about the train, the rail line that has been launched, and I think that deserves some commendation, even if it's coming late. But it is better late than never. Yeah. So now let's look at the fact that we have continuously pointed out about the myriads of challenges that the micro, small, and medium enterprises face in Nigeria. Lack of support, lack of
finance,
access to finance, lack of adequate infrastructure. And here we are also talking about the issue of housing and how that affects the productivity of these MSMEs. Do you think the time is ripe, really, for an agency, or should we say a ministry, that will take the responsibility of looking at the MSME space holistically and making the relevant intervention across board, across all these, issues that we have identified. And if that is the case, what should be the primary function of this ministry?
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Sayo. You have just touched me where I like. After May 29, 2024, I made up my mind that I would not criticize this government again. This government indeed need help now. And we as analysts, we should begin to think about how to help the government with good solutions on how to get out of where we are now. Okay, so where we are now, everybody is in it, whatever political party where you belong, okay, we are all feeling it. We are all feeling the pinch. So for me, I have looked and sat down deeply to look at the Nigerian situation now. Why has it defied all
solutions?
Okay, so I realized that a major sector has been led on catered for, which is the MSMEs. Okay, of course, in Nigeria today, you have SMIDAN, who is an agency under the Ministry of Trade. Okay, so that in itself is a problem. You have the Development Bank, who, for me, ought to be supporting the MSMEs. And you discover that, again, because the MSMEs is not well structured, they are unable to actually lend to them directly. So, for me, going forward, and if this government was listening, today, tomorrow, Ministry of MSME will have to come on board, just the way you have the Ministry of Blue Economy. Why has it had to come on board? In every enterprise, the most important components of that enterprise are the human component.
Yes.
And we've been able to identify that as of today, by the statistics from Bureau, NBS,
yes,
and SMIDA themselves, they said we have about 41 million MSMEs. Okay? And the population, according to the World Bank, is around 230 million. Okay, so if you divide 41 million by 230, you discover that these people make up about 25% of the economy. And we often say that they are the engine room.
Yes.
So if we say they are the engine room and they make up about 25%, why can't we look at a Ministry of MSME that will look after them?
I think in India, we have a case study in India where they have a specific ministry that is.
You agree with me that India, some of you will argue that at a point in time we are at the same level with India, okay? And today, India has put in place a Ministry of MSME.
Yes.
Okay? If you put up a Ministry of MSME today, it means that they will go and start addressing and looking at the real issues. Okay? And you can have SMIDAN as a parastatal
under the
ministry.
For closer supervision.
Then Development Bank should be renamed as MSME Bank for Development. Okay? So once you have these two agencies, then you're talking about the NEPC, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, will also come under
the Ministry of MSME.
So if you have this tripod working with the ministry, what would they be doing? They will be building capacity. The target they will be giving that ministry in the next 5 years is to say, look, we need to double that 41 million. So if we double that 41 million to about 82 million, okay, that means that you have moved close to half of the population being MSMEs.
Being productive.
Yeah, being productive and being MSMEs. And if each of those 41 or 82 million takes care of about 5%, you can say that the economy has been adequately catered.
So that's where we begin to have people from neighboring countries come into Nigeria, migrate from.
I was in Thailand. Do you know that Thailand has a 0% unemployment rate?
Wow.
That means the many jobs in Thailand are being done by the Vietnamese, who are their neighbors. Okay? I was in a particular factory, and what I saw was that break time, hundreds of people went on break, and they were not Thailanders.
Wow.
They were Vietnamese. Because again, there is dignity of labor in a place like Thailand.
Yeah.
Okay? Because in Thailand, they have over 5,000 mega rice mills, not small scale rice mill. Okay? And they work with a small scale rice mill who produces at the first level, to give to them. Okay, so once they give to them, they will now go to the level where they now go to the export market.
I'm going to come back to you on this Ministry of MSME. I know you are very passionate about that, and I can see the solution that ministry can actually offer to the MSME. But I'm being told that ESV Usilama is ready for us. Can you hear me, Sam? ESV Usilama, can you hear me? It's not ready anymore. Okay. So let's come back to Dr. Godfrey on this matter of the Ministry of MSME. So specifically speaking, I agree with you totally that this needs to be given attention. But what do you think will be the... Okay, Osilama is back. Yes, Osilama, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, good afternoon, my audience and my host. I can hear you, Mr. Osai.
Thank you.
And good afternoon, Dr. Godfrey.
Thank you. Yes, Osilama. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Now, sorry, we'll be having a...
Me too. I'm excited to be part of the program. I'm sorry. I think the network is very bad this afternoon.
Yes. But quickly, before the network, or if the network will allow us, I wanted to get your perspective on, the housing project, the Renewed Hope Housing and Cities project of the Tinubu's administration. What is your assessment of that project so far? Using your expertise as a real estate juggernaut.
Okay. Can I hear your question?
Yeah, I'm saying that, using your experience and expertise as a real estate developer, what is your assessment of the Renewed Hope housing project of the Tinubu's administration and how it can support the MSMEs?
Oh, it's a good step in the right direction, but it cannot provide the needed solution. The gap is too wide for a kind of approach. But sincerely, I applaud the government because it's a very good step. It shows that the government is interested in providing solution. But what I think they need is for them to get experts to advise them.
Okay.
On how to go about it. They cannot just sit down and formulate policies and start running with them. They need to sit down, get experts to develop policies, work with our economy and the state of affairs today.
Okay.
For instance, go ahead.
No, go ahead. For instance, go ahead. Finish your thoughts.
The take-home presently cannot deliver a home to anybody. I mean the minimum wage, even new one, the one they just adopted a few days ago, 60,000, cannot give anybody a home in the next 20, 30 years in Nigeria based on the cost of building materials.
So what are you...
And the way the economy is.
So what is your proposition, because we also understand that perhaps public-private partnership could also do the magic. Do you think there is a window?
It can.
Okay, so what is your recommendation?
If government can settle down and maybe set up a committee to interact with the private sector. For instance, my association, Rewed, if government can open up to work with us, we have a lot to offer. What government needs to do is to give us the raw material for production, and we will produce houses.
So
the raw material is simply land.
So by implication, you are saying that Rewed, which is the Real Estate Development Association of Nigeria, the one of the major bodies within the real estate development space, were not consulted by this government before embarking on this Renewed Hope housing project, and that could also be a problem. Is that what you are saying?
Mr. Osai, you are rephrasing what I said. I did not say they were not consulted. Don't please. Let's put it like this: okay. Government was supposed to come up with a committee. Not that they were not consulted. So I'm not speaking for I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're just trying to be very clear.
So I'm speaking from my office.
Yeah. Yeah. But
yes, I'm speaking from my office as a stakeholder.
Exactly. And we are trying to point out, because in developing policies, there is a place for stakeholder engagement. All right. And what we are saying is the government ought to also take into consideration engaging with bodies such as Rewed, to be able to have this perspective you are bringing. Yes. So that is the point we are trying to establish here.
So that they can work together. So that they can work together to provide affordable housing. But I'd like to quickly mention that the solution to Nigeria problem is social housing.
Social housing. And how can that be achieved?
Government, that's what Dr. Godfrey was referring to when he mentioned the homes in the UK. Social housing, government have to build these houses. Build these houses and make it available for people that cannot afford to own a home. Maybe it should be termed, maybe for a period of time, maybe for civil servants like that. Government have to produce mass housing.
Okay.
And it has to be across the country.
Okay, so that could be
many solutions.
Yeah, go ahead, just finish your thought now, because we are wrapping up at this point.
If government can decentralize most of these cities, like we use Abuja for instance, every office, major office, ministry, for instance in Abuja, they are all in the center. But Abuja has a large mass of land that are empty. Nothing is happening there. So government need to take some of these things, some of these ministries outside FCT capital, to somewhere like Gwagwalada, to Kwali, beyond Kubwa. Government has to decentralize everything, and you see that they will provide infrastructure to all these areas. Then development will expand to all these areas. Then houses will be affordable in all those areas. Because in the center, the demand is very, very high.
The demand
and the houses available they are very small. Their numbers are very, very small compared to the people that are looking for houses.
Okay, thank you so much.
That's the problem.
Yeah, thank you so much for your perspective. We are running out of time. Let me quickly come back to Dr. Godfrey because the point you are making is building this housing. That is the point Usulama is making. These council houses, and we have seen that the local governments are not taking in that direction. Because because the truth of the matter is that from what you are saying and from what Usulama is saying, there needs to be council houses. All right. Which will be built by the councils. Okay. But from what we are seeing, if not the federal government shouldn't be the one taking this initiative.
So we've become an irony of a nation where today if your wife didn't cook well for you, you are going to call Mr. President saying that he's the one that is.
So my point is this something that the Ministry of MSME that you are, the Ministry of MSME that we are advocating for, if you try to grow the MSMEs, they will become they'll be able to get money to be able to afford this housing unit. Don't forget that in a place like US, for example, you discover that, look, when there was economic crunch that time, what happened was that there was housing bust because people couldn't afford to pay for, and that's what even led to the corruption that we talk about. Because but the moment you start working, you want to own a car, you want to get married, you want to own a house. Okay, so and if the system cannot afford you to have all those things, then you try to force yourself to having those things. Otherwise, if you are a small-scale enterprise and you're doing so well, then you can subscribe to a mortgage house and pay over a period of time. So that we're saying that grow the MSME through the Ministry of MSME so that they become buoyant to be able to afford houses for themselves. Okay, like ESU Islam has said, not everybody can afford houses. That's the truth of the matter. But if again you have the small and medium enterprise, they are able to own their own houses. Then the small, the micro people can live in those council houses. Then gradually, as you you begin to improve. From micro, you become small. From small, you become medium. From become medium, you become large company. So they must give you the thought to say, look, this MSME that is now the engine room
how do we grow these people for them to be able to own or afford these houses, no matter how we are.
So one of the critical questions that I wouldn't fail to ask you, because our viewers will be wondering if I don't ask you that question, is the fact that we are aware that this administration came up with the fact that they want to implement the Oronsaye report.
Okay.
And we hear that there are some movement around that direction to subsume, to merge, some ministries and agencies and all that. So perhaps give us a sense of where the implementation of this Oronsaye report is versus your proposition for the creation of an MSME.
The Oronsaye report came out a long time ago. The government wouldn't have adopted it wholesale. Okay, they ought to have sit down to look at the Oronsaye report, because Oronsaye report's about 5-10 years old. Okay, now this same government came up with the Ministry of Blue Economy. Yeah. So if I want you to make a comparative analysis now between the Ministry of Blue Economy
and the Ministry of MSME,
I'm sure by today you still don't understand what the Ministry of Blue Economy is supposed to be doing. But when I mention MSME now, it resonates with you. Yeah. Okay, so for me, government is not too late. Go back and check. We have said that what will solve our problem now is the Ministry of MSME. 41 million person. In the next 5 years, we need to grow it to 82 million. Okay, and once that is done genuinely, and we're able to provide the finance that they need, I tell you, half of our problem is gone. Our problem is just security, production, and forex. These are our three major problems. So once you can get this sorted out, because again, the labor are advocating for increase in wage, let them pay them. But I tell them that if inflation keeps going up, that same money they will take to the market tomorrow, and it will not buy them what they so desire. Okay? I mean, 3-4 years ago, what you could afford, it would now only give you 30% of what you want today. Okay, so what we are saying,
the implication, the value of the naira has depreciated.
So if you pay them 400,000 today, and inflation goes up from where it is today,
from over 33% where it is now.
I tell you, there are some nations that went as far as 300 and something inflation. So let's not deceive ourselves that it cannot go up. Okay, so once you feel security, people will naturally go back to farm. People will naturally go back to production. Okay, then once production is going on, forex will come down. Okay.
Yeah. So in as we begin to wrap up, because I've just been informed of we have very few minutes remaining for this show. The Ministry of MSME is what you are saying could be
it is the problem. It is the solution.
The solution.
Yeah.
The magic one. Yeah. That can. And
if you get the right people to drive it, I mean, this era of people having to come to office, we can drive this ministry virtually. Okay, we can connect staff across the world, and every day they will resume at work to see how in the next 5 years we can grow this 41 million to 82 million and make it to be productive. Okay, and once we achieve that, everything will just be falling in place. Wike is working in FCT. Everybody knows that Wike is working.
Everybody's seeing it.
Yeah. So if we become productive, everybody will see it.
And you are saying that this Ministry of MSME,
the Ministry of MSME
will be the magic one.
Is what we. So and if they need further consultation, we've done the blueprint already.
Oh, you have a blueprint for them.
Blueprints on how it will run seamlessly.
Wonderful.
And if you need to collapse one ministry for it, why not? I will tell you the ministry to collapse.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for offering Nigeria and Nigerians this solution. I want to thank you for staying with us on Market Movers. You can see we have Dr. Godfrey here. He's a market mover, telling us the solution to our economic problem. And we are thinking, and we know that the government is listening, and they will take the right step to ameliorate the challenges of the micro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria, because they are the engine room for economic growth. Until we come your way again tomorrow, stay blessed.